Here's a look at your daily market report on this Wednesday, the 10th day of September. Around the auction barns today, Farmington Regional Stockyards are expecting to have about 500 head. They do have 3 or 4 smaller full cow dispersals following the feeders today. No early listings for a total number from South Central Regional Stockyards in Vienna. However, they did advertise several groups of fancy calves that would be there today. Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, they're expecting to have about 2,000 head today. Windsor Livestock Auction, they listed about 2,200 on their early listings for today's sale, and it's an off week for Green City. At the auction barns around the state yesterday, prices were mixed. Some of the barns were lower, some were higher. When we look at the Missouri Stocker formula, it came in lower today, down $4.21 based roughly on a 550-pound steer. Those calves, lots of them coming to the barns now unweaned and balling, and that's weighing in on the calf market a little bit, putting some pressure on prices there. Taking a look at how the auctions did on Tuesday, SEMO livestock sales in Jackson, they had 911 head. The market there, compared to 2 weeks ago, was uneven from 4 lower to 3 higher. Interstate Regional Stockyards in Cuba, they had 1,877 head. The steers were called $3 to $10 lower, with some of those unweaned calves as much as $15 lower. The heifers under 450 pounds called as much as $20 lower. Heavier weight heifers $3 to $10 lower. At Kingsville Livestock Auction, they had 2,010 head. The market there was mostly steady, although the yearling steers over 750 pounds sold as much as $10 lower. At Lolly Brothers Livestock Market on Tuesday, they had a special cow sale there. No test on the feeder market on Tuesday. Unionville Livestock Auction, they had 941 head. The last sale there was 3 weeks ago. Most of their offering this week was made up of full pot loads, with several loads there of those Reputation Rockin' R steers, those heavy 8-weight steers. The market there called $10 to $20 higher. At Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains on Tuesday, they had 3,142 head through the barn, another 278 head sold over video. The yearlings, $2 to $4 lower. Calves were mixed from 6 lower to 6 higher, with all of that basically depending upon whether or not the calves were weaned, whether or not they had vaccination records, and flesh conditions. Again, the weather conditions, the swings that we're starting to see getting in close to fall, going to have a major effect on the calf market, and we'll start to see some of those discounts get pretty wide on some of those higher health risk calves. At West Plains on Tuesday, the 4 to 5 weight steers sold from $460 to $482.50, 5 to 6 weights at $417.5 to $480, 6 to 7 weights at $385 to $427.5, 7 to 8 weights at $358 to $387. A full load of 898-pound steers in West Plains sold at $335.50. The feeder heifers, medium and large ones, 4 to 5 weights, $395 to $435. 5 to 6 weights at $359.50 to $425. 6 to 7 weights at $351 to $375. Some 8 to 850-pound heifers at $320 to $324.50. Box beef cutout values are lower at midday. Choice down $1.20 at $406.47. Select down $1 at $385.96. Those values based on 78 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. The Choice Select spread at $20.51. Negotiated feedlot trade so far for the week, 15,754 head. Haven't seen a single hoof move yet in the southern plains. Both Texas and Kansas still at a big 0 for the week. Iowa's reported 5,131 head so far. Live sales from 237 to mostly 240. If that holds to be the trend for the week, that'd be about $3 to $5 lower on the live sales than last week. Dress sales have been reported from 375 to 378, a few up to 382. Nebraska's reported 8,205 head so far for the week. A small handful of live sales were reported at 238. The dress sales mostly at 375, a few up to 382. If that 375 turns out to be the market for the week, that'd be down about $8 from last week. Taking a look at the futures markets at midday, Live cattle seem to find a touch of footing following yesterday's sell-off. October 42 cents higher at midday at 230.60. December 232.32 up $1.15. February at 233.60 up $1.25. Feeder cattle have been mixed all morning. The September showed the most strength. Of course, that has to stay in line with the index, which isn't too far from that contract and the index happen to match up, as the September will expire in about 2 weeks or so. This morning, the September's up $1.97 at 353.67. October up 77 at 350.70. The rest of the contracts lower. November feeders down 60 at 348.27. January at 342.37, down 102. Lean hogs at midday. October's up 97 at 97.10. December 88.27 up 42, and February 90.27 up a nickel. Taking a look at the grains at midday, corn contracts are 1 to 5 3/4 cents lower, with the most decline on that September. Of course, all of the September contracts are getting really close to expiring. Not a whole lot of volume on any of the commodities with the September right now. Corn for September at 395.5, down 5 3/4. December new crop corn at 417 3/4, down 2. March at 435 3/4, down 1 3/4. September beans at 1009 3/4, down 1 3/4. November new crop beans 5.5 lower at 1025 3/4. January down 5 1/4 at 1045 1/4. No trade on the September wheat so far this morning. December's down 3.5 at 516 3/4. March at 533 3/4, down 4. Soybean meal for September down $7.70 a ton at 284 even. Soybean oil for September 49.76 a hundredweight, up 6 cents. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a look at your daily market report for Wednesday. This is Tony Hancock.